So today's story is a personal one. It took place nearly 20 years ago. It is not meant to glamorize the use of drugs in any way and should be used for mere entertainment or educational purposes on the dangers of abusing Benadryl. DPH, my descent into delirium. The year was 2004. I was 15 years old, headstrong, and extremely reckless. The first time I heard about tripping on Benadryl occurred when I came across these insane reports online detailing extreme visual and auditory hallucinations, undiscernible from actual reality. Why this was so appealing to me, I'll never know. My buddy John had just picked me up to go stay at his place for the weekend. Poor guy had no idea what he had just gotten himself into. Well, neither did I, really. Just before he had arrived, I had ingested 500 milligrams of the pink Benny capsules as we hopped in his car and I let the anxious waiting game begin. We drove to the local McDonald's to meet a few friends as I sat in the passenger seat on pins and needles. John was not happy, by the way. Once we arrived and went inside is when I really noticed things began to change. My limbs felt as if they weighed 1,000 pounds, and a wave of nausea and anxiety came over me as the entire world around me began to vibrate uncontrollably. I've made a horrible mistake, I thought to myself, only to have John respond, "Why, what's wrong?" Had I just said that out loud? As I sat there, blankly staring at a life-size Ronald McDonald statue, it suddenly turned to me with a demonic Pennywise-type smile, stood up, and walked into the bathroom. I leaned to John with a shaky voice, "It's time to go." As we were headed outside, though, our path was suddenly blocked by like 3 carloads of people. They all jumped out, seemingly on a mission, though I had no idea what. So, for weeks prior to this, I had made enemies with my girlfriend at the time's ex, so he had heard I was in town and came to pay me a little visit. He took one look at me, in my state, laughed, and showed me mercy. I still appreciate that to this day. By this point, it had been almost a couple hours since I ingested the Benadryl, and it was in full effect. I no longer had any control and was completely dependent on John to keep me grounded in this realm. Narrowly escaping, I staggered out to the car, on the verge of throwing up. I looked up, out to the dark forest in front of me. I saw a couple tall, shadowy figures walking aimlessly in and out of the trees. A constant nagging feeling of terror was ever present during the entirety of this trip, and it was far from over. We hopped in his car and started making our way over to my girlfriend at the time's house. I lived an entire lifetime on that drive, drifting in and out of delusional hallucinations. I no longer knew what was real and what wasn't. I lit a cigarette and sat back in a hypnotized-like state, staring out the window. The lights outside were now disorienting and made me even more sick. I turned to tell John to unlock the window, but John was no longer there. In replace was just a shadowy black figure with no features. I closed my eyes to get away from it, and I must have dozed off. I was awoken by my mom. She was screaming my name. Both her and my dad were now in the back seat, and it was daytime out. "You're high again, aren't you? Seriously, when are you ever going to learn? You're going to die. Die." She screamed right in my face. I woke up back in the car with John, just as we were pulling into park. I got out of the car and saw a field of glowing neon flowers all around me. I thought, I'll pick one for my girlfriend. But when I went to grab it, my hand went straight through it. Times like these were the only times that I would remember that I had even taken something. We got inside and my girlfriend was both instantly pissed and worried. I couldn't really blame her, so I sat there on her stairs with her in my face saying God knows what. It looked almost like when you have words that don't line up on a movie, but I couldn't comprehend those words. I also remember my phone ringing a couple times. I'd pick it up, but there'd be no one there. So, by this point, my girlfriend was done with us and wanted us to leave. Taking the cue, John grabbed me and helped me to the car. We decided to head home for the night. We were done. Well, we got about a quarter mile down the road, still in my girlfriend's neighborhood, when apparently I unlocked the door and jumped out of a moving car and ran into the woods. John told me later that he pulled off to the side of the road, freaking out, looking for me, but I was gone. What happened during that time is still a mystery to me, because the next thing I remember was coming to, walking out of the forest, and immediately seeing an oncoming car pulling over, its brights on. "Are you okay?" a female asked. She stepped out into the light. It was two of my friends who just happened to be passing by. Thank God for that, because that was the only thing that made me find my way back to John. I was exhausted, covered in dirt and blood from sticker bushes, and ready for it to be over. I woke up the next morning aching all over my body, a pounding headache that lasted days. Never again, I thought. Never again. Did I just say that out loud?